Maplestory the Novel, Season 1, Sacred Tears. Written by Tatsumari Korisuno. Chapter 14, Part 1. Creation. Using what he found, Dane forged ahead, examining the samples of darkness collected over the previous years more closely. He needed to know why the darkness had controlled him without his noticing. Days became weeks as the temple's laboratory, previously open to all the acolytes of the order, became a place of residence for Dane alone. At times he would venture from his hovel and join Mars and Viren on trips to vanquish omens appearing around the world. But when he returned, he would retreat to the laboratory to test and study further. His searching revealed that the darkness took control because his emotional state was similar to that of the darkness permeating the entirety of Aswan. If that were true, then using the darkness to create the ultimate light would be far more tricky. Ariel's plan could work, but there would still need to be a place for the darkness to be contained until their child was ready to use it. His first thought was to absorb it, acting as a conduit and buffer to avoid losing the child to the darkness. He experimented with containing it within himself, but even the tiniest drops would send him into fits of rage, sorrow, shame, or even suicide. There had to be something he was missing. It wasn't enough to absorb and then use the darkness. Dane needed some way to ensure that whoever used it stayed in control. What if he combined strong emotions and his darkness conversion theory into one? If their child drew in the darkness directly without extensive training, there would be a much higher risk of being lost to the darkness. But if Dane were to act as a conduit, there would be less chance of the child's corruption, but the possibility of losing himself was just as high. Unless he could contain the darkness in some other form or container, there would be no safe way to use the darkness for the ultimate light. With each passing day, he could feel the pressure mounting. The famine was only worsening, and the omens were becoming more and more prevalent. Sometimes, even animals became infected and raged like monsters.
Wait, what if...
Turning the pages in past notebooks, he hoped to find some clue that he had overlooked in his earliest days. If strong negative emotions allowed the darkness a foothold, then strong positive emotions should allow him to overpower it and stay in control. Or what if he were to take it a step further, ensure that he felt nothing? His past journals did not indicate this was a sound theory, so the only way to know was to try. Reaching for a vial containing a less intense shade of darkness, Dane bolted to the fields behind the temple. With great mental effort, he stilled his thoughts, calmed his breathing, and focused all his attention on feeling nothing. Not anger, not grief, not excitement or joy. Nothing. Once sure that he was blank, Dane pulled the cork from the bottle, unleashing an omen that howled in grief, speaking of many tragedies long since past. Dane remained still and unmoved as the omen wailed around him, seemingly ignored. Summoning his staff, it snapped to his palm as light flared from the end. Still, the creature didn't react, aimlessly looking for something amidst the surrounding trees and shrubs. With a sweep of his staff, a sheet of pure white light sprang from it, cutting through the trees. But the omen remained unfazed. Reaching for his notebook, Dane jotted down the result, then held his staff up again, allowing himself to feel contentment from a memory with Ariel. Immediately, the omen snapped its gaze to him, lunging at him with open arms and agape mouth. Sweeping his staff again, the same sheet of light cut through the omen's body, wounding it as it slumped to the ground. Quickly reaching for his notebook, he jotted down a note, then readied himself. Dane held forward his hand, initiating an absorption spell. The the omen turned its gaze to him, lunging at him once more. Dane did his best to sidestep the creature as its claws tore through his flowing sleeve. As the omen passed, a stream of black smoke pulled from it and burrowed into Dane's hand. Sorrow and fear tore through Dane's mind like a fire, making it difficult to stand. His legs shook, willing them to stay under him, but the more of this omen's darkness he absorbed, the harder it became. The omen lunged again, but with little to no strength in his legs, Dane collapsed to the ground, barely missing the omen's razor-sharp claws. The gesture opened him to a second swing, tossing him across the ground. As Dane pulled himself from the dirt, his tears flowed, and his heart felt as if it were imploding. With every bit of will he had to spare, Dane gathered the darkness he had absorbed, firing it back at the creature in a blaze of silvery light. The resulting blast blew off one of the omen's arms, making it back away with wide eyes, clutching at its shoulder. Dane's tears ceased, allowing him to stand once again unimpeded. Looking at his hand, the words of the darkness he had faced when creating Lotus and Orchid's bodies came to mind.
Darkness may be the concentration of so much pain, but it can grant one unimaginable power when focused through a single emotion. It can even create a god.
Dane clenched his fist hard enough to make his skin creak and turned darkened eyes to the omen.
Through a single emotion. Perhaps I can use darkness to create a more powerful light. The ultimate light.
Breathing slow and long, he gradually silenced all emotions save for one as a wave of power washed over everything. The omen lunged with a deafening roar, aiming its powerful jaws at his waist. But as the omen passed over him, Dane moved aside and swept his hand through it, tearing a piece away, swirling like a cloud in his palm before it seeped into his skin. He thought of Ariel. He thought of their time together even when she was using a pseudo-body. He thought of the love they had built and how it had brought him out of his darkest times, channeling all the darkness he had absorbed through that love. When he opened his eyes, the omen shrank back, almost as if it were afraid of him. Light erupted from the staff with a single swing, cutting right through the omen and turning it to ash instantly. No sooner had the omen faded from view than the surrounding area felt as if dawn had come to it. The whole world seemed brighter, and even the air felt lighter. But the revelation wasn't to last. As if water were drawing back into place, the whole world weighed on Dane, nearly bringing him to his knees. After an eternity, Dane opened his journal once more and jotted down his thoughts.
The darkness belt pushed aside, giving me a glimpse of the world without it. But it soon pulled back in and felt like it would break me under its weight. Conclusion? Darkness could be avoided by feeling nothing, though we cannot combat it like this. Strong negative emotions will attract darkness. I surmise that negative emotions exclusively will draw it faster, but this requires further study. In contrast, positive emotions seem to make the darkness shy away, but the nature of darkness makes it resistant to a small degree. To create stronger light, darkness must first be absorbed and channeled through a single positive emotion, enhancing light by many degrees.
With a satisfied breath, he dotted a page with a period and closed the book around the pen. After writing down his thoughts, a new theory came to mind. Putting extracted darkness into a creature saturated in the ultimate light, or at least channeling it through it, could provide a means to rid the world of darkness.
Ultimate light. Now there's a term I haven't heard in a long time. Ultimate light. Now there's a term I haven't heard in a long time.
Dane muttered happily, turning back to the temple and his lab. Inside, Mars was searching through a bookshelf for a spectral transmutation manual.
Oh, Master, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Are you all right?
He asked when he saw Dane's dirty and torn robes.
I'm fine, Mars. How are the acolytes?
Dane asked absently.
Many are eager to learn from you directly.
Dane listened absently to Mars, writing thoughts into a notebook.
I think it would be in the best interest of the Order if you were to train a few of them tomorrow in the use of their shining rods. Viren and I can only teach them so much after all.
Mars continued, noting that Dane seemed distant, annoying him.
I'm sure you're still able to teach them, Mars. I've discovered something that can lead us to rid the world of darkness once and for all, and I must pursue it.
Dane answered, squinting his eyes in thought as he wrote out an extraction spell. Mars pursed his lips, heat running through his arms and face.
Master, I must insist that you at least come and address the acolytes. You were the one to start this order and have yet to present a welcome speech to all the new acolytes.
Dane stopped writing and turned to face Mars fully.
Our work here is more than training acolytes and slaying omens. Must I remind you that our purpose is to find the root cause of the darkness and stop it completely? Training others will simply delay destruction, not save the world.
Dane's grip tightened on his pen, the muscles flexing in his jaw as he spoke, gently pounding his fist on the table with each word for emphasis.
Then why are we training acolytes if not to defeat and eliminate the omens and prolong the time you have to find said cure?
Mars countered, holding his arms wide.
Do you plan on teaching anyone what you have learned so we can all better combat the omens?
Yes, Mars, I will. But my time is better spent finding that cure, not presenting a welcoming speech. Once the darkness is eliminated, there may be time for such things.
What happens once we complete our objective? Do we simply disband the Aurora?
Mars demanded, slamming the end of his shining rod on the marble floor.
No, Mars. Once the darkness is gone, the Order's purpose will shift to ensure darkness within the world will never reach that level again.
Dane got up from his chair, setting a heavy hand on Mars's shoulder, and gave it a firm squeeze, his tone softening.
I need you and Varen to continue your work training the acolytes what I've taught you. I have found a possible solution, but I need time, and that is quickly running out without a way to delay the darkness spreading.
Mars growled in his throat, clenching his fist, making his arms burn all the hotter.
How does locking yourself away help you find the ultimate light? Why haven't you used that to destroy the darkness you extract? There are dozens of vials here you can test it on!
Mars shouted, motioning toward a wall of shelves with said vials.
And that is what I intend to do, and this darkness will help to find it.
Dane answered, pausing for a moment, tilting his head and furrowing his brow slightly, a pang of dread settling into his mind.
Are you losing your faith in our cause, Mars?
By no means, Master!
Mars answered quickly, jerking his head back with a shake, blinking a few times as the question hit him.
Good, because I will need all of you to help me complete this journey.
Dane gently shook Mars's shoulder to emphasize his statement before returning to his theory.
You said you had come up with a new theory, Master. Would you care to expound?
I'm going to use darkness to vanquish darkness.